Hey, welcome back to the About the Labor podcast here at VikingsTerritory.com. I am BJ Reidell, back here with my guy Drew Mahowald, continuing to get you guys through the offseason to the best of our ability here. Today we've got a couple subjects. Obviously, minicamp started, so there's a couple things to work with there, and we'll see what we can kind of scoop up from that. As per standard, we'll be doing the NFC North ranks as well, linebackers this week. And then we'll finish up with a take 5 of the worst Halloween candy in our personal opinions. So that should be a fun one, I think. So let's get this thing rolling. Drew's got to go watch golf all weekend. So
U.S. Open, baby.
We're recording very early in the morning, and it's going against my style here. So. So this came out this morning, I believe. Ben Gessling was on the report. Jerick McKinnon reportedly weighed in at 212 pounds, which, if you're aware of what he weighed last season, as far as I'm concerned, I think it was 197. That's a 15-point jump, and we're talking straight muscle here. I mean, when football players gain weight, especially, tiny running backs, there's not much room to put fat. You're basically just adding abs to your abs. It seems like that's what McKinnon was up to this year, because he apparently just came in to minicamp and just absolutely shredded. And he had a couple things to say about it. Basically, the main thing that I took away was the reason why he wanted to put on the weight was because the wear and tear on his body, he said, from being roughly 200 pounds, it was killing him last year, and he felt like he was slowing down. So he added the weight in order to be a more durable player for an entire season, which
makes sense.
Yeah, I mean I think that's an important factoid there. So I guess, Drew, do you have any initial takeaways from bringing in this information here?
I think the one thing you think about is if a guy's going to lose some of his burst, some of his quickness when you guy gains weight like this, but I'm not that concerned about that with McKinnon, because I feel like he was already exceptional. He had exceptional agility, quickness, change of pace kind of ability already. I think what he's trying to do is improve as a between the tackles runner, because and this kind of shows too that maybe the Vikings still see him as that guy that can run between the tackles. Maybe he's not going to be that slot weapon that we all kind of want, or want him to kind of be used as. So that's what I take away from it. Maybe that's not, maybe those two are unrelated, the whole slot role and gaining weight, but I would think if he's still trying to be an in between the tackles runner, he wouldn't put such a focus on trying to gain weight and bulk up and be effective in that way.
Absolutely. I mean, I feel like McKinnon, after last season playing behind that offensive line, he mentioned himself the wear and tear on his body. I'm sure that he got absolutely beat to a pulp last season. But the big thing here is that I think that he sees what we see, in that he wasn't a complete running back last year. I mean, how many different times have both you and I talked about his inability to run between the tackles, but he can get to the outside with the best of them. I think he probably is very self-aware. I mean, as a human being, as a guy that's probably extremely critical of everything he does, I'm sure he watched his film and was like, hey, this isn't good enough. You put on 15 pounds of muscle, you can start pushing guys back a little bit more. You know what I'm saying? You start falling forward a few more times, and I guess I wouldn't read too much into it, just because this is a weight gain. This isn't like I don't know.
It's not a concern. You're not concerned when someone puts on 15 pounds of muscle.
Right. You don't really know how different how big of a difference that can make. Every person is different with their weight. Obviously, with Eddie Lacy, when he loses 15 pounds, all of a sudden he becomes a warrior. So we'll see how this type of transition affects McKinnon. I do think this is worth following, because the point that I want to drive home with you here, Drew, before we move on to the next thing is, if he does gain this weight, and let's say he stays, same lateral quickness, same general agility, that he's still the Jet. But he's just got some more power behind him now, and he finishes his runs better. There's no more falling backwards, like 16 yards anymore. He's a more effective blocker, probably, because he just simply has a bigger, wider frame that's harder to move around. All of these things considered, can can he realistically compete with the two guys that are sitting in front of him now?
I doubt it. And that's not a knock on him. I think that the Vikings brought in two guys for a reason. Right. When the rushing attack was last in the league last year, they clearly wanted to fix that. Sure. And I think what I see from them is part of it is Jerick McKinnon wasn't the guy, maybe to be running with an offensive line that needs work. And obviously they brought in Remmers and Reef and all these guys that are going to improve that situation. But Latavius Murray's a big, strong back who's going to be probably the go-to between the tackles guy at least to start. And obviously Dalvin Cook's likely a generational talent as far as kind of rookies coming into the league is concerned. So I don't see a huge impact from him. It's just why we've been clamoring for a long time for him to have that slot role. But I mean, you never know. He had 4.8 yards a carry, I believe, as a rookie. So it's not like he can't produce at the NFL or in the NFL as a starter. I feel like the Vikings are going to give Murray and Cook the best chance to be a featured guy here.
Yeah, I kind of want to. I'm with you in saying it's not a knock on McKinnon. I just think that Dalvin Cook is he's got that gene, in my opinion. I just think he has that kind of that legendary trait where okay, back that up because some people are going to hear that wrong. When I say legendary trait, I mean I think that he has a chance to be very, very good, top 3 Vikings running back of all time. And if you think of the Vikings running backs, that's Robert Smith, Adrian Peterson,
Chuck Foreman.
After that, there's a lot of them. The Vikings have been focused on the running game for a very long time. And I really think that Dalvin Cook has that potential. It's just a couple things he's got to shore up, and they're technical things that if he just accepts coaching, I mean, he could realistically do a David Johnson type of turnover where in 2 years he's a top 2-3 running back, in my opinion. He hasn't taken a snap yet, so call it a hot take if you want. That's just my opinion.
That's a hot take.
Is that it's a little hot? Okay. That's fine. But basically what it comes down to then is McKinnon is extremely talented. Drew, you talk about all the time how he's just an absolute workout warrior. I mean, the bench press numbers that he put up in that small frame.
Insane.
Just absolutely absurd. I just don't think that he has that thing. He doesn't have the Adrian Peterson gene. You know what I'm saying? Where it's the Marshawn Lynch trait, where you're just a game breaker, something when you need that big run or you need that extra 3 yards, they seem to get it or they fumble. But it's what I'm saying. I just don't think that McKinnon has that trait. I think that he can be a great running back in the NFL. I just don't think he can be a generationally talented running back like Dalvin Cook.
That's fair. I think I can't disagree with that at all. It's
more projection based, right?
Right.
I'm basically calling him a blue chip prospect, which I think he is. I mean, that's how I scouted. That's how I analyzed his film and what I came away with.
Right.
If
the Vikings hadn't drafted Dalvin Cook, we'd look at this situation much different.
Absolutely. I think that we would be having the debate right now, can Jerick McKinnon kind of make us forget about Latavius Murray with the exception of the goal line? We'd probably be talking about that.
There's probably a chance he would, too.
Right. To kind of sum up this whole thing, this weight gain could be a game changer for McKinnon, and it could also be nothing. It could be absolutely nothing. But it could be the difference between falling forward and getting stood up. And that, my friends, is a very big difference in a game of inches. The greatest cliche of all time because it is actually true. So from there, let's hop into minicamp a little bit here. Obviously, McKinnon's weigh-in was part of that, but what we've heard from minicamp, this is going to be discussion-based stuff. That's just kind of how minicamp is, the same idea as what we've been doing for the last couple of months. A lot of speculation, a lot of kind of taking pieces and trying to find, stuff we could really take away. Minicamp's not going to give you a ton of that. But big thing that I saw, big quote from Mike Zimmer. I don't have the quote in front of me, so I'm not going to read it off to you. But basically, he preached situational football. And this is confirmation bias with me because I've been screaming about situational football, particularly red zone threats and why Michael Floyd would be a great fit, why Laquan Treadwell failed us last year, all that kind of stuff. I think that this podcast has been very focused on improving the situational stuff because, that's kind of inherent to breaking down what's wrong or what's right. Yeah. So I really liked this. I was a big fan of this Mike Zimmer quote, and especially because he also said that they look like they're working well and that he feels confident moving forward. So, again, small piece. Do you have any kind of emotional reaction to this at all?
When I heard situational football, the first thing I thought of, which maybe this is probably the bad way to think about it, but the Lions that game at home last year when Mike Zimmer was the guy. Mike Zimmer was the guy who, in my opinion, dropped the ball.
Absolutely.
First of all, before that Rhett Ellison touchdown, he called the timeout early, giving the Lions time in the first place to go down the field. And second of all, when they did score and kick it off to him, he went in ultra prevent,
quarters
backup mode. It was after, they were 40 yards down the field
after dominating for 4 quarters too.
Right. There are still 20 seconds left on the clock, and so Stafford can throw a 30-yard pass down the field without really much of an issue, and the Lions went down and made a 55-yard field goal because Matt Prater could kick a ball 70 yards. So, I mean,
that's poor scouting.
Which that's one game. It is, but I mean, if the Vikings win that game, they're in the playoffs. So, I mean,
game of inches.
Situational football. Obviously the players and coaches have to be on the same page and execute in those situations because obviously the term means the most important plays of the game usually are in that category of situational football.
Right.
But that was just the one. I mean, obviously there was other games where players messed up and offensive coordinator Pat Shurmur made a bad call or whatever it was. But that was the one game I looked to because it was pretty. That was the one that sticks in my mind from last year because I mean it was a game that had right there, and it was Zimmer to me who dropped the ball.
Well, I mean, I'll just add another one to you because as you were talking about that, you just reminded me of the Redskins game, right? The game where it came down to an interception by Sam Bradford and kind of began stirring up that narrative that he doesn't have the clutch gene and gave Teddy Bridgewater fodder to that group.
Yeah.
But that was poor situation.
He did that at Thanksgiving too.
Right. But this one was poor situational football in my opinion because what's his name? Preston something. Great.
Smith. Wasn't
Preston
it
Smith? Preston Smith, right. 3-4 outside linebacker, hand in the dirt type D end, right? And this was a situation where if the Vikings are in a position to win this football game, they're in control of their own destiny at this point. And Shurmur, and to some degree, I give him a pass because he was working with so many different outlets, just so many different things going wrong for him. But you call a quick slant on a play when you pick the one play when the DN drops into coverage and you give your quarterback 3-step drop and fire into that coverage, and he threw it right into his chest. I mean, that's not necessarily poor situational football. It's poor play calling for that situation based off of the look they were giving us. I mean, again, I don't know as much as Pat Shurmur. I'm not one to say that I could have done the situation any better, but for a guy with his level of experience, you just expect that he wouldn't basically set Bradford up for that pick, and Bradford just executed. So that, to me, is something that coaching staff situationally, you need to understand your defensive look better. You got to understand the defensive personnel on the field better. And I mean, you get that pass. If you get that pass by Preston Smith, I mean, you're probably going a long way because that guy can't chase your. I mean, he can't chase. Can't chase your.
Thielen had beat his man on the slant, and it was open. It's just that I think. People are going to put all the blame on Bradford, which, obviously that he deserves a lot of the blame, but that was the first read, and I think he was instructed to throw that pass right away. It was a 3-step drop
and fire. I mean, he literally executed the play, or not. I guess he executed he executed the execution of the play perfectly. He just didn't look before he threw because the expectation was that Preston Smith wasn't going to be there, and he was. So. Again, not necessarily situational football, but just something that, little things like that where Pat Shurmur, Mike Zimmer, he just got to be better. Straight up. We can't lose games on your accord. That's for the players to do.
And, very memorable for you, especially, case where the player messed up the Dallas Cowboys false start.
I mean, the worst situational football of all time, right there. So, yeah, I mean, and that's a game. That's another backbreaker. You think about.
I mean, we've thought of 4 games already: Washington, Detroit, and Dallas, right there, where situational football at the end of the game. We're just talking about the end of the game. There's so many, third down, red zone. There's so many different things that we could be addressing here. But we thought of just
the entire Colts game, the entire first half of the second Packers game. I mean, there was situational screw ups all over the place. So but yeah. So again, going back to the premise of this entire kind of discussion. I think this kind of thing, it needs to be a focus for a team that has championship on their mind. You can't. You cannot win a Super Bowl without being elite at situational football. The Saints beat the Vikings in 2009 because they were elite situationally. Garrett Hartley came in, he executed. The Vikings lost to the Seahawks because they couldn't execute down the stretch in situational football. I mean, it always comes down to the special packages, the red zone look, the triple tight end sets where you're essentially zone blocking the hell out of everyone. It comes down to these little things. Searles jumping off sides. I mean, Cowboys, Redskins, Detroit. I mean, you're looking at like a 12-4 team. Just based off of stupid blunders. And so my big takeaway here is just the fact that Zimmer is addressing this day one with everyone at mandatory camp and saying, look, this has to be our major focus right here. That's big for me. I mean, because I really agree with him. Again, a little confirmation bias there, but just if I'm seeing it, he's seeing it, I like it. I'm for
it. Yeah. I think one more thing too is the red zone stuff. I can think of 2 games right away. That Detroit game already talked about. I remember specifically there was a possession where the Vikings started at the Detroit 18-yard line, and they ended up punting from their own 41, or from the Detroit 41.
There was a hold on Flemings, right?
There was like 2 holds or like false start or something. There was a bunch of penalties, and then brutal. The Philadelphia game, they had I believe they turned it over in the red zone twice. So
just start. Oh my God! There. Do you remember when the first 12 minutes of that game when Cam was just doing whatever
there was like 7
he wanted?
Turnovers.
We were awful, and then Danielle Hunter gets that safety sack, and literally Marcus Shields scores from 70 yards out, and the Vikings are just coasting. Game of inches. So, situational football, man, that's a big thing. So, the other thing that we kind of wanted to talk about with minicamp again very early, positional battles. Matt Venzel made a comment about specifically a couple of the positions that we have been targeting as areas that the Vikings are looking to improve or could be very competitive. The big one being the Edmund Robinson, Emmanuel Lemur competition in my mind, just because that's such a strain. It's kind of it's a dynamic that I don't know these players very well, just because they have limited snaps in purple and gold. And Edmund Robinson has always been seen as kind of a one-dimensional pass rusher. Now he's being asked to drop back into coverage, and he actually, Drew was just telling me before that he had a pick, which that's exceptional stuff for a guy that basically was a full-time pass rusher in college. That debate's just so intriguing to me. I think it'll be going for the entire season too.
Yeah, I mean, I've always kind of thought Lemur is just going to get the starting job just because he's the guy with the experience. But it seems like Edmund Robinson's name's coming up quite a bit here over between OTAs and minicamp. And as you alluded to, Matt Venzel tweeted yesterday that he picked off Case Keenum dropping into the flat in coverage during their minicamp practice yesterday. So exactly right. So it looks like Robinson and Lemur are currently splitting time as that starting will. I feel like Robinson's kind of starting to become the favorite here. The fact that he's still has a rep.
He's a dark horse, kind of.
Well, the fact that Lemur isn't already have all these, he's not getting the first time reps almost exclusively as the veteran, as the guy with the experience. It kind of points to me that Robinson is gaining steam here, and I think we should, at least I'm going to start expecting him to be the guy. As training camp opens, I think he'll be the starter at that position. But, obviously, again, we got to watch out for guys like Elijah Lee and even Ben Gideon sneaking in there in the middle, too. Watch out for those guys as well. I don't think – and the fact, he said too, if Lemore can't make the starting lineup or can't find himself a role in the team, he might not make the team at all.
Right. That's a safe cut too, because there's not a whole lot of dead money involved there. And I mean, we already talked about how hot Lemore's seat was a couple shows ago. It's probably just getting hotter as Robinson gets better, it sounds like. So, that's something that I think that I will probably over the next couple days, weeks, will be trying to figure out, because like I said, Edmund Robinson has always been kind of like, I put him, when Drew and I were talking about this earlier, I put him on my Island of Misfit toys, Island of Misfit Mike Zimmer toys specifically, just because he has the pass rushing talent. If you checked out, I believe he was a small school guy. I can't remember what college he's from, but he was absolutely dominant, and that's what you need to see from small school guys, just absolute freaking dominance when they're playing at that level. So he could do the pass rushing stuff. There's some technique things that he needed to improve upon, obviously. But he had that skill, and it was pretty blatantly clear, which gives you so many more options with Barr being able to pass rush, and Kendrick's actually proving over the last couple of years that he's a pretty dynamic pass rusher when he needs to be. That's just, if Robinson can get that zone coverage, basically just dropping back about 8 yards and just sitting pretty and kind of using your instincts to read the situation and at least make the sure tackle if you get a quick slant. If he can do that effectively, dude, he's going to trounce Lemore. He has more playmaking ability, much higher potential, because we know what Emmanuel Lemore is at this point. He's like Case Keenum. He is who he is. He's been in the league for X amount of years. He's probably not going to get any better. There's not that many Rich Gannon stories. So that's just what it comes down to for me. I would keep an eye on Evan Robinson, and if you're not too familiar with him, that's probably a guy to brush up on, because it seems like we're going to be seeing a little bit more of him.
Yeah, I would expect, like I said, I expect him to be the front runner going into training camp, and the fact that there is such little competition at that spot, I mean, he's the favorite, and he's likely a backup on the other 31 rosters in the league, but the fact that the Vikings are so weak at that position right now, he's going to be the guy. So.
And potential is a scary thing. I feel like I'm bringing him up every day now, but the basic premise behind me liking Heineke over Keenum is just, it's potential. Potential can be dangerous when you don't know what the ceiling is. It's not established. There's no consistency. There's nothing to kind of look to for projecting the future. That's dangerous. You don't know where that guy can go.
Which is why we should be looking out for Elijah Lee in training camp. Exactly, I think he's obviously got a few things to work on, but the range is there.
He's just getting his footing right now. I mean, the coaches don't even look at him during practice. I assume.
Oh yeah, but the range is there. I think the sure tackling needs to be improved a little bit, but
the coverage.
Robinson's job is not safe, because I think Lee could very well fight for that role as well. Since it is so little used in Zimmer's defense that. You can kind of try some things out at this position. So I think Lee's the kind of the wild card, dark horse favorite for that.
Absolutely. If it's kind of just it's a group of dark horses, the guys that you wouldn't typically expect any of these guys to win a positional battle. 7th round pick in Lee, Lemore again, kind of just a guy. Edmund Robinson, another 7th round pick. That's your competition right now, folks. I think it's strange to see a couple 7th rounders competing. So we'll leave it there on the positional battles early on in minicamp, and move forward into the NFC North ranks with the linebacker position. I think you guys are probably pretty familiar with this kind of thing this segment that we've been doing. So we'll just jump right into it. Drew, give me your 4 ranks for Green Bay, Detroit, Chicago, and Mini.
I'm going to kind of run through these quickly because, I think there's a lot of interchangeability here. But I have the Vikings number 1. I do, because I really like Kendricks, and I think Anthony Barr obviously had a down year, but I think he could still be a really good player. And I think the Vikings, the fact that they do use their all 3 linebackers so rarely, I'm going to kind of not completely disregard that 3rd spot, but it's
it is what it is. They don't use it very often, so I can put that number 1. But number 4 for me is Detroit. Number 3, I'm just going to go right through them because, I'm just going to keep going here. Number 3, I have Green Bay, and then number 2, I have Chicago. I Darrell Freeman for Chicago. He's, I think, arguably the best coverage linebacker in the league. I think he battled some injuries last year, but he kind of makes that defense go, I think, and what he does, and he's able to roam the middle and really lock down anything over the middle. So I like what the Bears have there with him. But overall, Barr and Kendricks as a tandem. Barr had a down year last year, but overall, I think those two can really be something special. So I have that number 1.
Yeah, I don't think I'm too much different with you here. Vikings, I have them as number 1 too, and my explanation is about as simple as yours. Eric Kendricks and Anthony Barr is a tandem, which is, I believe it's 67% of the defensive looks that they ran last year. That's a borderline elite duo that has unparalleled chemistry, which is just a factor that it can't be ignored, but it also can't be quantified. That duo is simply it could be very, 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 very good in a couple of years here, and you just hope they stick together for their entire careers, because that could really be something special. You saw what Anthony Barr could do 2 years ago as a rookie. 3 years ago, oh my God, 3 years ago now as a rookie. Yeah. Even the sophomore year, and even last year he had played. There was moments where we saw Anthony Barr. But you know what this guy can do. You've seen the physical frame. I mean, this dude looks like the Terminator. It just, if he figures out whatever it is that he kind of lost last year, I kind of want to say it's a mojo thing with him, because he's just so low-key that maybe something just kind of got to him and he just didn't feel like himself or something, because whatever it is, if he finds it, I mean, he's as good of a pass-rushing outside linebacker in a 4-3 scheme as you're going to see. Eric Kendricks is, you guys know how much I love that dude. So I have Vikes number 1. I have the Packers number 4. Pretty much this, 3-4 scheme, so it's a little difficult here. I think Blake Martinez is all right as a stay-at-home guy. I like that find. I like to also point out when Ted Thompson does things right, because I have trashed him so frequently here. I do like that pick. I think Jake Ryan is situationally all right. Again, Clay Matthews is not good anymore. Sorry. If you're a Packers fan listening to this, first of all, why? Second of all, sorry, Clay's not good anymore. The hair is still there. Pass rushing talent isn't. So I have them at number 4. Number 3 for me is Detroit, and I think that Detroit could very easily challenge for that 1 spot, if depending on where Jarrett Davis is at as a rookie.
And Jalen Reeves-Maybin too.
Right, exactly.
There's a lot of potential there.
Yes, that's those 2 linebackers right there. Jarrett Davis is going to be very good as a rookie. I really think that he looks a lot like Patrick Willis, not as good as Patrick Willis, but the same type of ability. And that's something that they have really missed in Detroit over the last couple of years with. God, who's the dude that's always in the tub for them? The linebacker that's was actually pretty good for a couple of years, but he's always in the tub.
For San Fran?
No, for Detroit. Detroit's middle linebacker that was just literally.
Oh, no, not Stephen Tulloch.
No.
DeAndre Levy.
Yes, no. DeAndre Levy.
Is that who it was?
That's what I'm thinking of. Yeah, the dude that he was very, very good in spurts, but he just kept getting hurt and just slowly just kind of tubbed his way out of the NFL. So I think that was. That's who that's who I was thinking of. Maybe you're thinking of someone else. They've rotated a lot of linebackers. That's the point basically here with Detroit, is that I think Davis is a guy that they're going to have long term, and I think that Jalen Reeves-Maybin has the very high potential to be a guy
that's who we wanted, and said the Vikings picked Ben Gideon. So
right, he has the potential to be the 4th round edition of the Trey Waynes Marcus Peters debate in my head, because I was screaming Reeves-Maybin, and now I get to watch him twice this season. So. That's number 3, and then Chicago. We've talked about this. Chicago's getting better, and they've got some real talent there. Pernell McPhee and Leonard Floyd, whether they're lining up at end or at linebacker, extremely talented guys. Jarrell Freeman, I'm never going to condone taking steroids because it's cheating, but he was absolutely freaking elite. Before he got suspended, and I believe he came back and he was actually just the same guy. So maybe the steroids were like a health thing where he was just trying to not be hurt.
Yeah.
That seems to be the case for a lot of guys, but man, that guy could really play. And then, I mean, we're forgetting Danny Trevathan too. That's a Super Bowl champion that is about as good at his job as you get. So this Chicago linebacking crew, if someone argued them being the best in the North, I wouldn't. I tell you that I think that you're wrong because I just said I think the Vikings are the best, but at the same time, I would certainly accept that opinion, and I don't think it's too outrageous for, honestly, Detroit too. They'd be a little hot, but to take that,
they got to prove it first. They got 2 rookies that are going to be, I would think, playing a big role. So they got to prove it first. But yeah, they got the potential.
Right. So if you want to go on the limb and die on the Detroit linebacking core, it's not the worst hot take in the world. Let's put it that way.
Nope.
So that wraps up linebackers for this week. We will do cornerbacks next week. So look forward to about 20 minutes straight of me talking. Let's move into, we've got a couple questions here. Again, we're kind of out of our element here, recording early in the morning. I just told Drew to fire off a tweet and see if anyone responded, and we got a couple fun questions here. So from Vikings King 888 on Twitter.com. Thanks for the question once again, man. We love getting your thoughts. One trade that you would like to see happen during the upcoming season.
Wow.
He didn't limit this to just the Vikings. I would assume that a Vikings trade would be the ideal answer here, but
right, yeah.
There are some trades that I think that
I guess I haven't really been thinking about trades, because it's just we're gearing up for the season and whatever. But obviously, whoever picks up Kaepernick, I'd like to see the Vikings trade for Kaepernick. But that won't happen.
Christ, put that to bed.
It's probably time.
People are going to turn off the show again.
Yeah. Jeez.
Here, I'll help you out.
I can't think of anything specific, but
I've got a couple. I've got a couple ideas here. I'm not saying any of them are great.
Okay.
I'm not saying these are great.
I'm not thinking of specific names that. Is it realistic, or is it like...
I'm playing with hot seat names, like names that have came up within the rumor mill or names that have been reportedly on the trade block. So the guys I'm working with in my head, Joe Thomas, Richard Sherman, pretty much anyone on the Saints, because they're always in salary cap hell and they have to make moves all the time. I would say Blake Bortles is probably on the trade block. I would say pretty much anyone on the 49ers roster is always on the trade block, given their new trade or their new regime there. Arizona seems to kind of be Larry Fitzgerald's kind of getting a little bit up there in age. This could be his final year. Maybe ship him off to something. I think there are a lot of viable names here. For me, I think the ultimate deal, the thing that I would love to see, and people are going to really hate this because you hate the Patriots, but I would love to see Richard Sherman get traded to the Patriots. So, and here's my thinking. One, Richard Sherman has just been throwing shit fits still over that interception that Malcolm Butler picked off. So,
yeah,
now he gets traded over to that team. And I want to know how those shit fits develop with Richard Sherman's just mind.
And then New England plays Seattle in the Super Bowl and beats them.
Right, yeah. Something along those lines. It's plausible just because these are two of the powerhouses within their respective conferences. Yeah. And Tom Brady doesn't need much more help, but if you're trying to milk every last morsel out of this dude, go get the best cornerback in football. I guess the defensive scheme that Belichick does is considerably more intricate, I would say, than that. Basically, the Tampa 2 cover 3, cover 4 type thing that they run in Seattle. But Richard Sherman's smartest dude that I can think of, like with the exception to the dude that talks with the metal sound. I can't remember. Stephen Hawkins. With the exception of Hawkins, Sherman could pick it up. So I would love to see Sherman to New England.
Yeah. You mentioned Larry Fitzgerald. I know the Vikings wide receiver room is extremely crowded. So let's say Arizona gets off to like a 1-4 start or something
Carson
like that.
Palmer gets hurt.
Right.
Right. Before I think the trade deadline is week 6 or something like that. Yeah. So Cardinals got off to a rough start. Vikings are 4-1, 3-1, or whatever the case may be. The Vikings still have a couple of rookies playing. Quan Treadwell's not seeing the field. And
I know where you're going with this now.
Yeah, it's pretty. Who else would you trade for Larry Fitzgerald here? It makes sense.
Floyd.
Look, I get Michael Floyd back for Fitzgerald. Treadwell for Fitzgerald is what I'm getting at here.
I'm cool with that. You get 1 year out of Fitzgerald, and you make that wide receiver core of
right. You get a guy in Fitzgerald that he didn't win a Super Bowl, but he had the greatest playoff run of all time at the receiver position, and he knows how to play in the postseason. He knows how to get a team in the postseason. He's extremely great leader.
He can run the slot. He can run on the outside. Extremely versatile. Smart. Picks up on stuff quickly.
He was in the Bruce Arians super complex offense. I can't imagine it'd be a huge transition to move into Pat Shurmur, but
on top of it, he's like Mike Floyd's best friend over the last couple of years. So he's probably also pretty tight with Harrison Smith, Kyle Rudolph, those Notre Dame guys. He would just be a perfect fit. And with that said, if that trade were to go down, then I'm for getting Eric Decker, because at that point you just got to bring them all home, right? It's that at that
all
point,
the Minnesotans, yeah,
right. So that caveat being, if Fitz ends up in Minnesota, all for Eric Decker. Don't care about the logic. Go get him, because that would be hilarious, right?
And then they all win a Super Bowl at US Bank Stadium, and everything's perfect.
It would be legendary. It would be absolutely legendary. Yep. Just get all the boys back home and just set up the stage. Go 9-7 or something stupid like that, where just nobody sees it coming at all.
They just sneak into that 16 and just
run through the playoffs as a wild card team playing on the road, and just get to play at home for the Super Bowl. Dude, this is climactic stuff right here. This has motion picture written all over it. You get a 30 for 30, no doubt, if that type of thing goes down. So, that is the long answer to who you would like to see get traded. The second question we got here, Steve Pa, 27, and his name on here is Stephen A. Smith, but he spelled Stephen with the V instead. So his question is very very intricate, and I'm a fan. I'm just curious how long it's going to take for us to come up with something here. If the Vikes are at the 8-yard line on 3rd and goal in an empty backfield set, who would you say are best options in this red zone package? So
I like this question.
First of all, I think we got to break down what an empty backfield set would mean, right? So you got to have 11 guys. That means we're looking at probably
you're looking at 5 guys.
5 offensive linemen, probably 2 tight ends, I would say, given the personnel the Vikings have. Your quarterback, obviously, and then you fill up the other 3 spots with wide receivers. That gives you 3 receivers. So you can either go 3 wide receivers, 2 tight ends, empty backfield, or do you want to go 1 tight end, 4 wide receivers, and then which personnel do you take? I'll throw this over to you, because I'm kind of juggling this in my head a little bit here. That's basically your 2 options, though, to go 4 wide, or 4 wide with 1 tight end, or 3.
Well, what I'm thinking is get Bucky Hodges in there for 1.
Yes.
I'd put Rudolph in there, another big target, and I'd put Diggs and Thielen in the slot probably, and then you have Rudolph in line at tight end. You have Hodges out wide, and then I think you'd put Floyd or Treadwell, whichever guy proves himself more over the course of camp and the first couple of games, if Treadwell gets the opportunity. But those that put that last guy on the outside, and I think you are golden to me. I think that's ideal, looking at the personnel that the Vikings have brought in, and I think you want to see a slot guy like Wright or like Coley in there, but when you have Diggs and Thielen that can do it,
you
maximize the length and size of the other guys on the team.
They're as good as slot guys. They're better.
I know.
They're better.
I know.
All right. This is what I've got going on in my head right now. So we're talking empty backfield, which, by the way, not a fan of going with the empty backfield look in the red zone. I don't see the reason to say, hey, we're not going to run the ball when that's something that the defense is kind of game planning for, given the situational football. But given the circumstances that you have laid out for us here, I'm thinking bubble screen. So I'm going to put Floyd and Treadwell on the right side of the formation on the line with Diggs off the line and set up that bubble screen look, right? So I got my 3 wide receivers there. Then I'm going to take Rudolph. I'm going to have him in line on the attached to the right side of the offensive line. So you're going to have in total, you're going to have 4 guys on the right side. Then I'm going to have Bucky Hodges lined up at the X slot at wide receiver. So I don't have Adam Thielen on the field here. Adam Thielen's probably the biggest name. I don't have that's about it. I don't have Thielen. So the game plan here is if they sniff out the bubble, they probably didn't sniff out the fade to Bucky Hodges in the left corner of the end zone where he's getting a one-on-one look from probably a cornerback that can't physically match him. So you're either going bubble screen to Diggs and they'll let him do his thing because it's 8 yards. 8 yards for Diggs is cake when you got 2 of the best blocking receivers in the league right out in front of you initially, and then you got Rudolph kind of peeling off to get the second level for you. I feel like I trust Diggs. If that catches him by surprise, I trust Diggs to score there. If it doesn't catch him, you basically got to determine that real quick if you're Bradford, and then you throw up that fade in the left corner of the end zone. And if you throw that ball well, I really don't think there are too many people in the NFL period that can cover Bucky Hodges one-on-one. So the goal here is to set up that one-on-one matchup on the outside in the X spot, and basically just create a brick wall in front of Diggs on the right side with Bradford making 2 decisions in about 3 seconds. So,
yeah, I like that.
That's again, I don't like the empty backfield in the red zone. I would love to have probably a split backfield, honestly, with like Dalvin Cook in there because of his versatility, and then maybe throw like Rodney Adams as like and line him up at a running back just because of his skill
pace
set.
game.
Yeah, do weird stuff. As soon as you start doing weird stuff, like you start throwing Don Terry Poe in at tight end or running back, like you don't know how to defend that because
Linval Joseph.
Yeah, I mean, why not? Why not? He was lined up at fullback last year and he buried dudes. He ate people that he Linval. So. I just think anytime you get super creative like that with your personnel, you throw a guy like Thielen on the sideline when they're probably breaking out a cornerback specifically to match up with him at this point, you start confusing people, and that's the ultimate thing, that kind of the difference between good Vikings teams and bad Vikings teams. Bad Vikings teams telegraph everything. Teddy Bridgewater, Adrian Peterson offense.
Yep.
Good teams do weird stuff
like
that Red Ellison sweep call last year, which is one of my favorite play calls of all time.
And they should have won that game.
Yeah, they should. Again, situational football. That was great situational execution for what it's worth. All right, so that's the end of our questions. Thanks to both of these guys for firing something off at us quick here. Really enjoyed both of those questions. I thought they were excellent stuff. Last thing is always the Take 5. And since we kind of put this show together in about 10 minutes at about 9 in the morning, we're doing worst Halloween candy. So hopefully you like humor on top of Vikings football, because that's kind of what we're going for here. Drew, we talked about this a little bit. You got a top 5 worst Halloween candy for me.
Yeah, I do. I'm going to ruffle some feathers with this one. Raise some eyebrows, because I have 5 and 4 are Starburst and then Skittles.
Yeah, that's not. People won't like that.
To be honest, I've never had either one. So it's like principle now to not have them. So when I get them or I see the opportunity to eat them, I don't, just because it's just a waste of my time that way. So that's 4 and 5 for me. I mean, it's really, really bad reason, but it is what it is, and I'm not going to change it. So number 3, I have a combination. These are all just kind of the same, but Airheads, Ring Pops, these like super sugary, like fake fruity candies.
Yes.
Get them out of my face forever. There's no reason for those. They are the worst, and when little kids have them, they get like super hyper and annoying.
Well, kids are the worst, period. So
number 2, fruit snacks. That's just garbage. Don't do that for Halloween. I will never do that. Just stop with that right now. There's no reason to have. I mean, I've never had fruit snacks. I haven't had fruit snacks in like 12 years probably.
That's probably good, though. I mean, that's kind of it. I think that you only are allowed to have fruit snacks up until you're about 8 or 9 years old, and then it starts getting weird, right? I don't know the official rules on that, but I think you're
just
good.
Fruit snacks can go away too. I don't need them. And then number 1, caramel apples, which I think a lot of people like, but
I like caramel apples.
Like if you're handing out caramel apples on Halloween, so you're putting the work in to get an apple, and then decorate it with caramel or however the process goes for that.
You can buy them straight up. They're expensive.
Okay, yeah, but either way, you are working way too hard to be a cool Halloween candy router
and to mix in a healthy snack. You know that's what they're thinking. That's what they're telling the other parents.
Absolutely uncalled for. That Halloween is for eating chocolate, a ton of chocolate, and then getting like a sugar high and then falling asleep. That's what kids are supposed to do.
There you go.
Don't give them fruit. Don't work too hard and put caramel on top of an apple. That's just not. You don't need to do that. So that's my 5 right there.
Okay. Honorable mentions for me. Fruit snacks, like Drew said, just absolutely not. Why is that your thought? Like, why do you go to Sam's Club and pick out a bulk stock of fruit snacks for Halloween? I don't know.
Like the gummy lifesavers too.
Yeah, I don't know. Go talk to a kid sometime. That's just obviously no. So that's just an honorable mention for me. The second one is kind of it's more of an Easter thing, but I have gotten it dropped in my bag before, and I was horrified. Peeps. If you don't know what a peep is, right? They're these little birds that are just made out of straight marshmallow, which aka it's just straight sugar. If you have more than one of these things, you will have a stomach ache for like 4 days. They don't taste good enough to eat ever, and the side effects is it's literally it sucks. So Peeps, honorable mention. Number 5 for me, I'm not really a cult candy chocolate guy. I actually don't like candy in general, so I feel like some of these are going to be cult favorites that I'm knocking down here.
Fair.
Dark chocolate stuff, just in general, like the Moonlight, whatever, Snickers, or just anything that says Moonlight. Like, first of all, why? Whatever there. So big no on all dark chocolate. Tastes horrible. Just do milk chocolate. If you have to, do white chocolate, because that's all right too. Number 4, liquor sucks. It's bad.
Ooh.
It's really it's bad. So and absolutely no to red vines for sure. If you're gonna do licorice, do licorice at least. Don't do crap or Nerds Rope, that kind of crap. You don't need that. That's
Twizzlers. How about red Twizzlers?
Twizzlers, the pull and peels are all right, but actual straight up Twizzlers, not a fan. But I don't think that's really a Halloween candy. If people were dropping individual Twizzlers into the bags, that would be a hard number 1 for me, because sticky is.
Yeah, but you haven't had a lot of Halloween candies in this list at all. So you have the Peeps.
I'm getting there. I'm actually going to drop I'm going to drop a fan favorite Halloween candy here. Number 3, Milk Duds. And it's not because I dislike Milk Duds. It's because the packaging for these things was about 4 inches by about 2 inches. They'd stuff maybe 3 Milk Duds in the little tiny box. So you get 3 duds for basically 1 drop. And 1,000% of the time, they were melted and stuck to the walls of the packaging when you actually went to eat these duds. Sucks. I'm not looking to clean up a mess on Halloween. Don't give me Milk Duds. Number 2, and again, this is probably not really Halloween-y, but I had someone drop this in my bag, so I have to bring this one to everyone's attention. Hard number 2, rice cakes. Yes, people actually do that. I had an apple. It was an Apple Jacks one, and it was literally just a single rice cake in a little packaging. It took longer to open the packaging than to throw it away immediately after opening it, because that's what I did. So rice cakes number 2, kind of unfair, but that needs to get out there. Those things are trash. And number 1, this is one of the worst candies of all time. The fact that I don't know how they stay in business, because I've never heard anyone in my entire life say I love this candy, or that I would pick this candy over anything else. Almond Joys. There's going to be one of you guys that's going to say, oh, I love Almond Joys. Don't be that guy, because they are terrible, terrible, terrible candy. And once again, if you know children at all, and you're dropping Halloween candy, just talk to one of them and they will tell you immediately. Almond Joys are a hard no. If you're dropping that, you just don't know what's going on. So that is that's another reason why it's a hard number one for me.
I've never heard of them, so
yeah. That's good. The fact that you do not have the experience with, I believe it's like coconut with like all kinds of crap, and it's just. I took one bite one time and like gagged, and I was they're encased in chocolate too. So like the fact that it was that bad wasn't good. So that wraps up my Halloween worst candies. Feel free to fire off candies that you hate. I think that's a funny topic, so let me know. I'd like to listen to that. You can, as always, find me on Twitter at Robert Reidell, Reidell, or you can fire these takes off at Drew Mahowald, and that's Mahowald. I'm on a streak spelling that correctly.
Yeah, you are.
Always Vikings ATL podcast and just pod on Twitter. You guys know where to find us: iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, Vikings Territory, all that stuff. I got to repeat it every show. I'm sorry. And make sure to keep following us. We'll be back on Tuesday, regular schedule for the rest of the season, and like I said before, cornerbacks on the NFC North ranks, and then whatever we can conjure up last second. Thanks for listening, folks, and we will see you next week.